I'm very pleased to have Professor Venkat Ragautam, the Dean, School of Social Sciences, Pondicherry University, with us to start this inaugural session. He has been extremely supportive to the Social Sciences Winter School all through, and as I said earlier, this is our 4th round. He has been very encouraging, guiding us through the different protocols, and I'm very grateful to him for that. I welcome him, and I think it is right that he welcomes the rest of the gathering. Thank you, sir.
It's indeed a great honor to welcome such distinguished academics, scholars, researchers, our respected Vice-Chancellor, Professor Gurmeet Singh, Her Excellency, Catherine Soir, and Professor Frederic Lundy, Director, French Institute, distinguished researchers and academics on the dais, my colleagues from the School of Social Sciences and other departments, the participants who have come here from different universities across India, perhaps across the world, to participate in this winter school. A very warm welcome to all of you. It is the task assigned to me is to welcome these distinguished academics, distinguished researchers, and distinguished diplomat who is here in Pondicherry. I'll begin with our Vice-Chancellor. Our Vice-Chancellor who took charge of our university on the 29th of November last year. He's a chemist of great eminence, a dedicated teacher, and a great administrator. He has shown all these qualities in good measure in our university. And the very fact that our university ranking, as far as the national ranking institutional framework is concerned, has gone up considerably. And in the 4th cycle of our re-accreditation, we have been given an A grade. All his testimony to the great skill with which he has led us through during the course of the last 1 year. Not only that, the university fortunes are looking up. We see the beginnings of a new series of courses, enrollments going up, and of course new infrastructure that will bring our university up to global standards. That is of course the dream, and I'm sure in the next few years that he will be here, a substantial part of that dream will be realized. I welcome you here, sir. It is indeed an honor that you have taken the time off from your very busy schedule to be with us. We have a very distinguished diplomat from the French Diplomatic Corps, who is the Consulate General of France here in Pondicherry, Madame Catherine Soir. She's been here in Pondicherry for for the past couple of years, and during her tenure here, she has negotiated Pondicherry's entry into the Smart City program. And I think we in Pondicherry are all beholden to you, Madame, for the care with which you have put Pondicherry on the Smart City map of India. Pondicherry is going to get substantial funding under the Smart City program, and I think it goes to the credit of this distinguished diplomat here stationed in Pondicherry that it has made this possible. She is a decorated diplomat. In 2008, Madame Catherine Soir was honored by the French Republic with the Knight of the National Order. And then later in 2014, she got the highest civilian decoration of the French government, the Knight of the Légion d'Honneur. So all this goes to show the commitment and the conviction with which our distinguished diplomat has contributed to enriching the relationship between the parts of the world that she was stationed in and the service that she has rendered to her country. As a distinguished diplomat. Apart from that, she has worked extensively both in Europe as well as in Africa. She has been involved in the technical cooperation, the Committee for Technical Cooperations when she was stationed in Lagos. She has worked in Estonia and of course Bulgaria, and in Greece she has negotiated with the Greek Committee for Scientific Cooperation. So wherever she has been posted, she has worked to create a better atmosphere for scientific and educational cooperation, and I think she has brought the same conviction here to Pondicherry in her new charge. I welcome you, Madam. And of course, we also have a very distinguished geographer who has been associated with the French Institute. He's the director of the French Institute. This is Professor Frederic Lundy. He's a geographer who has published extensively on issues relating to what can be called urban environment, social exclusion, and of course urban practices in terms of the inevitable conflict between urban spaces and wilderness. As we know, this is a very pertinent issue because just a few weeks ago, we have had this very unfortunate event taking place of the killing of that beautiful tiger, Avni. And he has worked on the man-habitat conflict in the Shivaji National Park in Mumbai. And he has worked extensively on the conservation of wildlife, how humans are contributing to the gradual displacement of wildlife from their natural habitat, and what is the optimal solution as far as this balance between development and human needs are concerned. He has worked on that. He has worked on the fertilizer policies. He has published a very important work, Gouvernance et Verticale, Corruption et Clientélisme, that is the corruption and its inevitable consequences in terms of governance in different parts of the world. I wish this is translated into English because I think it is extremely important intervention in this aspect. And then he has worked on the distribution of the public goods within national territories, with particular reference to the distribution system in India. All these are important works, and he has, as I said, before taking charge as the director here, he was the professor of geography in the University of Paris. So we have got three very distinguished academics, diplomats, scientists, and I think what else do we need? And of course we have three very young researchers who are here on the dais. They are of course Anne Cassile, Dr. Anne Cassile, Dr. Christophe Jalil, and Remy Delag. So all these three, I welcome all of you. Now I move on to the task of outlining this very important workshop, labor and development. This relationship between labor and development is a very important relationship in terms of what social sciences has to offer. And I would like to take a few moments to ponder over this relationship between labor and development. Labor is of course easily defined. It is that matrix of skill mediated by capital that transforms natural resources into a usable commodity. That is a standard definition of what you can call labor. The matrix of capital and skill are both important in transforming naturally available commodities into something usable, either for the individual or having social utility at large. About development, of course, there is no easy way of conceptualizing what development is. You have, mostly I would say, development takes place when the growth of an economy, the GDP of an economy grows, the savings, the saving capital ratio becomes more important. And of course, when there is if not full employment, at least a considerable degree of employment. And in that context, you can say there is economic development. Economic development is essentially a factor of labor, capital, and of course, savings and investment. One might say that this is a neoclassical way of looking at development, but that unfortunately or fortunately is generally the way in which development is measured by the World Bank, International Monetary Fund, etc. And now, interestingly enough, even India is beginning to redefine and recalculate GDP in terms of these parameters. So we can have that, that development takes place when there is accumulation of capital, new technologies, and savings and investment become more or less in equilibrium, because without savings you cannot have development. And then market. Unfortunately, when we look at development, we oftentimes forget that the market and the state are two very important components in this whole process of development, economic development. That is, the market, and as the size of the market increases, obviously development takes place, and as the size of savings increase, investment improves, and capital formation takes place. So we are talking about a pattern of development, a pattern, a concept that straddles a whole range of social issues. And that is why, as I said, this is very, very important topic for us to address. Labor and development. Now, what has happened with the market? In contemporary social sciences, the market and the state are two institutions that are generally, if not ignored, are relegated to a less important place. But I would say that market and development are closely integrated, because when you look back in history, and that is the only way in which I can proceed with this subject, because I'm by training a historian, I would like to take that relationship between market and development in a historical context. It is said, and I think it is no exaggeration, that until the end of the 17th century, between India and China, the world's these two great Asian powers had 2/3 of the world's GDP. Between India and China. Of course, one might say with David Landis that this is an anecdotal figure, but anecdotal figures are the only quantum of evidence that we have. 2/3 of the world's GDP was covered between China and India. So India and China would be classified as the developed world in the end, till the end of the 17th century. What changed in the 18th? The Industrial Revolution. It's the Industrial Revolution that brought about. That is, as I said just a short while ago, growth of capital, growth of technology, and the increase in market. These three factors completely alter the balance between Asia and the rest of the world. When I say that, I have another point to make. If it is oftentimes said that development can be calculated on the basis of standard of living, and if you take even the standard of living between an average worker, an average peasant working in the fields of India in the Gangetic Valley in the, say, 17th century, and the average condition of the peasant working in England or France or any other part of the European world, we can calculate the caloric intake, and we find that the purchasing power parity vis-a-vis the local currencies is around 60 pounds of grain in India and around 60 to 65 pounds of grain in Europe. This was what they consumed in terms of purchasing power. So even in terms of standard of living, we say that there is an equilibrium between India and the rest of the world, particularly Europe, even in the 17th and 18th. It all changed in the 18th century thanks to a number of factors, one of which, of course, is the Industrial Revolution. And today, as India reintegrates with greater intensity or re-enters the globalized economy with greater intensity, the division of labor, the international division of labor, is ensuring that there are certain institutional as well as social situations in India. One, of course, is the agrarian distress that is causing some concern and about which Professor Frederic Lundy has written considerably. We also hear about the loss of job security as a consequence of the globalized labor market, and we have quite a few people who are going to speak on the informal sector and the formal sector in the Indian economy, thanks to globalization. And we also have the rising tide of marginalization, leading to people living in deprived situations, but particularly the emergence of industrial slums in different parts of the world, again, about which Professor Frederic Lundy has written considerably. So we are facing problems. There are issues that have to be debated, but I cannot end but to say emphatically that all these issues are being addressed. The targeted distribution mechanism initiated by the government of India is ensuring that nobody gets left behind in the distribution scheme. Then you have a national health insurance scheme that guarantees some degree of health security. And then you also have housing schemes that have been launched to benefit a large section of the deprived population. All these schemes have been introduced since 2014, and I think these schemes go a long way in ensuring that the impact of globalization, at least the adverse effects of globalization, are to some extent mitigated because of the interventions of the government in these different social and economic sectors. So this is a very important workshop. I must congratulate Dr. Tanuja for taking the initiative to put together this very important workshop. I take this opportunity once again to welcome our three very distinguished guests and wish this the series of discussions that will take place over the next 2 days every success. Thank you.
I have two very good, wonderful friends. One is Madam Catherine, who is doing a remarkable work in improving our collaboration between France and India in a big way. And I'm sure during the next few years we will have France coming here all over and we will be there all over. So this is the approach with which she has been doing a remarkable work. And we have Dr. Frederic, who is a good friend, and his institute, when I first visited, is really doing a remarkable work, not only in social sciences, but also in sciences and Sanskrit and Tamil as well. Very impressive work they are doing. I hope this will continue in the years to come. And Professor Ragotham, the Dean of the school, and other young researchers who have been here to participate in this, and my colleagues from departments and colleagues from other places. It has been, I'm very much delighted to be here, because last year when I joined the university, Tanuja did come to me, as she has already explained, that the name is already there, but then unfortunately I was leaving immediately on the same very day for Delhi for some meetings, and I could not attend. So I'm very pleased that I'm here for the next edition this year. They are doing a remarkable work, there is no doubt, from mobility and to water management, and then finally now to labor and development. The importance has already been highlighted by Professor Ragotham in a very wonderful way. I need not dwell on that. But then I've been telling always, my area is electrochemistry and corrosion in particular. So when we talk about that, I started giving a question all over, which people didn't understand. They thought it's a very paradoxical kind of a question. I used to say that more corrosion means more development. So this, we are trying to mitigate corrosion. And how is it that more corrosion means more development? Corrosion will take place when there is a development. And if there is no development, obviously no corrosion will be there. You don't expect it in a jungle. So same problem here you will find. I can correlate that. If more development means, that means more problems which will be related to labor, and more labor movement, more problems would obviously mean more development in that place. So we need to relook at it, and unless we relook at it in a very proper perspective, because if you look at labor as such as one unit, you will find that this is an extremely important area to study. In the good olden days, people were neglecting this. That, well, this is one class we don't have to bother about. Why not? They are the ones who are really bringing in the development. If everybody becomes like us and there is nobody to look at that sector, you can imagine where the development will go and where the progress of the countries will go. Therefore, they are very interrelated issues, and this is what Professor Raghoutam has very clearly brought out, that they are closely related, and we really need to look at it in a very proper perspective. So I'm sure this workshop that you are holding will bring in all the issues, and the best part of these workshops, which is the 4th edition now, is that they have been documenting this very properly. This is one of the most important aspects of this. If you document it, it goes in the right direction a long way for the policy makers to take the right steps in improving these facets of this. And here, this year also, I'm sure it will be documented the way you have done it last year, and this will go a long way to sort out the problems related to labor and development. I am very happy that they are all here to deliberate on this. Catherine Madam is here, so obviously she'll give a right direction. Dr. Frederic has already done a lot of work, and the young researchers who are there will be a great motivating force for all our youngsters here. I'm sure this interaction will be a very fruitful one and will bring in the right results. So I wish the workshop a grand success.